All right, I would like to talk a little bit about potency testing when it comes to purified CBD products. So this is an area that can cause some confusion, and this is just my knowledge and experience, and what I've observed and seen being in this business. So I hope this will help anybody who's new to this business, and maybe have a few things that'll be helpful for people who are experienced in this business. So first, before I go into the testing, we need to talk a little bit about HPLC. So that is a kind of test where you get a small sample of a product and you run it through high pressure liquid chromatography. And I probably need a whole video to talk about what that is. But what's really, really important to understand is that within that test, the more pure of a product you're testing, the more unreliable those tests are. And if anybody wants to test what I'm saying, it's really simple. Take a CBD isolate, divide it up into 5 different samples, put a different label on every sample, send it in to be tested at a local lab that's an awesome lab, and you will get 5 different results. The reason is there's just a quality variable. Also, I've had people ask me before, they see a certificate of analysis that says 102%, and they think this lab is terrible. Obviously, there's nothing above 100% when it comes to purity. So why would that be on a COA? And the reason is actually there's a body of standards called ISO 9000. It's very standard. They said standards anyway. So that protocol, if you're operating off that protocol, then you have to write down your machine readings. And so if your machine reading is 102% based on your test parameters, then you have to write that down. And so actually a lab with a high amount of integrity will actually put something down like 102%. There's been a lot of cases where I've talked to people and there's been disputes between a company on, how do we know how good it is? You have one lab saying CBD isolate is 97%, another lab says it's 98%, another lab says it's 102%, and it can all be talking about the same product. So I want to give you guys some tools so you know how good is it. So a baseline test that is really good to have is go ahead, have a lab do HPLC testing. That's going to tell you whether or not it's CBD, and it's going to point you in the direction of how good it is. The next thing that I highly recommend is you take the CBD and you smell it. Your nose can detect down to parts per billion. It's amazingly powerful. So not every contaminant in the world will come up to a smell test. However, it is a good indicator. And if you do trust your nose, you will find things. 2 products that can test the same, one of them may have a stronger smell. Now, variables in that are terpenes. Some terpenes are smell stronger. Some terpenes also you may not like how they smell specifically, so that may affect you and your determination. However, in general, as the product gets more pure, there is less smell. So far as I can tell, you basically keep minimizing it as you make your way down the line. So this is our CBD concentrate, 93%. This is our CBD isolate, which is around 99%. And this is our super isolate, which is, we start with our regular CBD and we go through many purification steps to get the clearest possible, purest possible crystal, all with the effort of getting the THC to non-detect in the parts per billion. Where HPLC test, you can have 100 times that and still be non-detectable. So these are our 3 products. And actually, if you take all 3 of our products, this CBD concentrate has a much stronger smell. So you smell some of the residual terpenes. You also smell some of the Maybe like a little bit of the lipids that come through our distillation process that are very hot. Then with the standard CBD isolate, you have a much, much softer, gentler smell, but still you smell this residual terpene. And you just can't get all the terpenes out. Terpenes are amazing. They're super liquid. And people wonder about drug dogs specifically, how amazing they are at smelling things. What they smell are terpenes. So just as a side note, if you're shipping CBD and there is a drug dog, your CBD may get flagged. Dogs will bark when they smell the right collection of terpenes, which are found in CBD isolate. Even just a trace amount of those terpenes. Then you have the super isolate, and this has just the most faint smell. Almost nothing's left. But what I can smell in this specifically, to me, it smells like just a tiny bit of limonene. So smell, that is one indicator. Now you could take this and you could bottle it in a container for a very long time, and it may off-gas a little bit more and smell stronger as soon as you open the package. So if you're testing by smell, go ahead, open it up, smell it, but then give it time to breathe. Like, give it 5 minutes to just off-gas, go ahead and stir it up a little bit, and then come back to it, and that'll give you an idea as far as a smell test. The next test I highly recommend is a clarity test. So what color is CBD? Well, if you melt down regular CBD, it's going to come out yellow like, apple juice, or a little bit lighter than that. Our CBD concentrate is going to look the same, except it's going to have a little bit of a orangish hue to it, and it'll be darker. And then our super isolate is going to be clear, almost completely clear. In the camera, it's probably going to look as clear as water. There's just the faintest hint of yellow, but overall, to the camera especially, it just looks like super clear. And at the end of this video, we're actually going to melt these down, and I have more videos where I melt these. So if I'm a buyer and I'm trying to understand how good is this CBD, somebody's going to send me a test. I'm going to take my own test, and that's going to indicate that it's very good or very bad. But a regular HPLC test may not do a good job of distinguishing between this quality and this quality for sure. It may not even do a great job of distinguishing between these two. When I send this product in for testing, it often tests at 95%, 96% overall. However, it's really 93%. It's very easy for a good quality testing company to be within 2% of the range of accuracy. And so I don't want to say that testing isn't important, because it's super important. However, you cannot just take a COA as a representation of all of the product, hook, line, and sinker. You should use your nose. You should melt it down. And then as far as testing goes, there's also other varieties of tests to consider. So if you're dealing with somebody for the first time especially, you may also want to look at solvents tests, specifically pentane. You may want to look at, the reason I mentioned pentane is I just know that some state panels actually don't have it on there. Solvents test. You may also want to look at heavy metals. You may want to check for pesticides. So there's a lot of different things you can look for. Now, when you're looking at the different purity levels, again, it's great to have that test, but dig a little bit deeper into what you're doing. So now I'm going to go ahead and melt these down. For that, I'm going to switch this over to fast motion and just kind of let these go.